When I first came to know the Lord, which was August 29th of 2010, my husband was not a believer at that time. He wanted nothing to do with church or religion, and when I came home to tell him the good news after I made a public profession of faith at church, he was not enthralled at all. He was not enthused. I knew from that point forward it was going to be a challenge because my husband did not feel the same way that I did about faith and church and religion in general. My marriage was not well. It was on the rocks. And on Easter Sunday of April of 2010, my husband and I had a really bad fight, and my friends, Frank and Joy, had invited me to come over for an Easter breakfast/brunch. I decided to grab my daughter and go over to their house, and after the breakfast and the brunch part was over, I didn't want to go back home. And my friend Joy put in the movie Fireproof. And I watched that movie and I literally felt like I was watching my marriage play out in front of me. And I just could not stop crying the whole time I watched that movie. And it was at that point, while I was watching that movie, that God really got my attention. And I knew that I needed the Lord in my life. I made an intentional decision that I was going to start praying for my husband, and I literally cried out to God and pleaded with him every single day to change my husband's heart, because I did not want to be on this faith journey by myself. I wanted my husband and I to be equally yoked with each other. And actually an amazing thing started to happen. After a while, when he saw that the change in me was genuine and that this was not just some passing phase, he started showing up for church to join me. He started to come to the small group that I was attending. When my friends Frank and Joy would come over to play cards on a Saturday night, I would continue to ask them questions about the Bible. And at first my husband wanted nothing to do with it, and he would just sit there with his arms folded and glare at me across the table. But after this happened several times, my husband finally started answering the questions, and I realized he had an even bigger knowledge of the Bible than I did. So 1 year later, my husband came to know the Lord, and we are equally yoked. And my husband is now a neighborhood facilitator, and we hold Bible studies here at our home every Friday night. And if you would have told me 2 years ago that my husband would be a neighborhood facilitator and he would be leading a Bible study, I probably would have laughed. Just the power of prayer. That's the most important thing. That's the one thing I did intentionally every single day for a whole year. And I just begged and pleaded for God to change my husband's heart, and he did.